Homegrown Radio.
So rather than me having to do an introduction, I would like you to tell us your name, your surname, and your story in your own words.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. My name is Merelda, and I'm an addict. I was in active addiction for 15 years, and I've been clean for 13 years. I'm going to start with my story. In my studies, I found out that the gateway to addiction is childhood trauma. The first time I experienced childhood trauma was when I was 12 years old. On Christmas morning, me and my sisters are waiting for my dad to open our Christmas presents, and my dad was killed in a car accident on Christmas morning. And that just set me back so badly, to the point that I never got into a car for about 10 years. I come from a very, very small town, Eshowe in KwaZulu-Natal. You don't need a car to go up and down. So I would do everything in my power not to get into a car. I wasn't the only one, though, that lost a father on that day. I had sisters that lost a father on that day as well, but it didn't affect them the way it affected me. Eventually, I left the farm and I came to Joburg. Now, taking a farm girl and putting her in Eldorado Park, those two things don't mix. I saw a whole new way of life. Unfortunately, what I met in Eldorado Park was a lot of racism. I wasn't used to that where I come from. I wasn't. And I then chose to go and live in Soweto because I felt that was home for me. And I lived in Mdeni in Soweto, and I loved it. I loved living there. I was a pub crawler. They taught me how to do the pansula. I used to dress like them. It was just awesome. And then round about 21 years old, I fell pregnant, and I got married, and I had this bundle of joy. I was a child, trying to bring up a child, and I did the best that I could. My then husband was a born-again Christian, so of course that meant no more partying, no more clubs, and I became this very serious 22-year-old, going to church 4 times a week. When my kids were born, they only went to Christian schools, they only listened to Christian stuff on TV, and then round about 30, remember, up until that age, 33, I'd never touched alcohol in my life. I was a poor churchgoer, and then I got divorced, and then the party began. Oh my word. We would mix orange juice and vodka and keep it on our desks and sip through the straw. And we had our bar in Plain Street. Everybody knew after work we would be there. It was just chaos. It was a whole new way of life that my children were not used to. And they were so afraid. They'd never seen me drunk, ever. And now all of a sudden I'm rocking up drunk from work. There's drunk parties. And then I met my second husband, who was a chronic alcoholic. So I just fell into it, But before then, I needed an operation round about the ages of 25. It was a necessary operation. Then I went under anesthetic the first time. And that's when I felt that I had come home. When that pethidine hit, it was a feeling that I cannot describe. And this is what set off my addiction, is the feeling that pethidine gave me. When I got out of hospital and they gave me pain medication to manage the pain, it wasn't enough. I wanted some more pethidine. So in reality, I've had about 6 operations that I shouldn't have had. No doctor can argue with me if I say I have a pain in my spine. He can't tell me that I'm lying. So I would make up diseases in order to have operations just so I could have the pethidine hit. And when you come out of there, then you're on a drip of morphine. This was my drug of choice. But obviously I couldn't continue having operations. Doctors started seeing through me. That's when I got hooked on over-the-counter medication. The basis for the medication It's opium. The basis is opium. So I was almost like a heroin addict. I was just taking my heroin in yellow tablet form. And I did this for 15 years. That's the external. What was going on internally was off the charts. I have 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. Those children suffered so much at my hand because I was an addict and I didn't know that I was an addict. I was angry all the time. I gave them so much corporal punishment. These children used to be petrified of me. You were not allowed to fail a subject. You were not allowed to fail a test. My children had never ever chosen their own clothing. I chose how you spoke. I chose your friends. I chose your clothes. In high school, I chose your subjects. This was me needing to be in control on the outside because inside I was out of control completely. My kids were petrified of me. I remember my daughter, around about 14, she met this cool guy, an Angolan, nice guy, whatever, came from a good family. I didn't like the fact that she had a boyfriend. Do you know that I sold our house and moved to another house so that they could break up? That's how much I tried to control my children. It was insane. And, my goodness, just constantly angry. Like, I would go to the bank, and the bank tellers would go, oh my God, it's her. Don't smile at me. What are you smiling at me for? Who do you know me? That guy, that type of thing. Like, I couldn't stand somebody chewing chappies. So if I buy a Checkers cashier and she's chewing chappies, I'll make her run up my whole basket and then I'll just leave it because she irritated me because she's chewing chappies. I mean, this is insane. But to me, this seemed normal. This seemed like a normal way of life. My kids wanted to do different things with their lives. I told them, you are all going to be accountants. You are going to do accountancy. And out of fear of me, they did those things. My eldest son had had enough of my trying to control. He left home, got married behind my back. He didn't even tell me that he was getting married. That's how scared my children were of me. And my entire family as well. My sister, who is in the medical profession, began to see that I was now abusing these tablets, and I really was abusing them. She spoke to my husband, she spoke to my mother, and she said, I think that we need to do an intervention. And my husband said, I'm not doing it. You don't live with her, I do. My mom said, there's no way I'm doing it. So she came up from Margate, sat me down and said, you have a problem. You can't stop using these tablets. I was arrogant and egotistical. I said, so of course I can stop any time. And I tried for 2 days. I went ballistic. The way the body is so used to the drug, I started getting white patches all over my body and scratching like I have leprosy. That's how addicted I was to this. And still I remained in denial. She asked me to go to rehab. I went there, and when I got there, I looked down on everybody that was there because I had the polo handbag. You understand? And these people didn't have that, and I thought that I was better than them. And I treated them like that they're better than me. And I didn't think that I have a problem. Why would you think that you have a problem? You have a double story. You own 1,000 square meters of land in central Germiston, and you're doing things. You have an SLK. You have a 7 Series. How can people tell you that there's something wrong with you? These people are crazy. But deep down inside, I knew that there was something wrong with me. I just didn't know what. And the first time I sat in a meeting in rehab, and somebody said to me, you suffer from the disease of addiction. And they explained to me what that was, that I am so unhappy inside, I make everybody else unhappy. That was the happiest day of my life, because if you can tell me what's wrong with me, then you must have the solution as well. And they started to introduce me to the solution, which was the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. And I got on this road on the 13th of July 2009, and I've never ever gotten off this road. I worked my patootie off to start to find a way to be happy. Run about 5 years clean. I looked at the scope in South Africa as to how we are coping. I belonged to a fellowship, Cocaine Anonymous. Cocaine Anonymous was minute here in South Africa. So I decided to reach out to Cocaine Anonymous USA, because that's where it started. And I started getting replies, and anyway, me and a few other people, we set up the first ever national convention for Cocaine Anonymous in this country in 2014. I got international speakers to come here, something that's never been done before. And we had this massive convention, and it put Cocaine Anonymous on the map in South Africa. What happened after that was that Cocaine Anonymous America then invited me to come and represent Africa in the States. And I went. It was the first time an African delegate was ever at the conference. And the part I remember the most is they asked me to open the conference, but they asked me to do the opening in Zulu. That was the pinnacle of my life. There's 500 people sitting there. I'm speaking a language that they can't understand, but they knew that there was a soul connection between me and them. And I went and I represented Africa on the world stage as far as Cocaine Anonymous is concerned. Of course, when I got back, that's when I got the yearning that I want to do this work full time. I don't want to work in my workshop anymore. I want to do this work full time. And that's when I started my journey as a recovery coach and a drug counselor. I started working with people, and I did it for about 8 years. And then late last year, I decided that I don't want someone else to tell me what my experience is worth. Because when I sit down in an interview and I tell you who I am, you put an offer on the table and I agree with you. No, that wasn't working for me anymore. I wanted to determine my own worth. So I walked away from all rehabs and I started my own consultancy business. Now I can work on my time, I can come and do this. If they need me to go and talk to a school in Togoza, I am a free agent to carry this message to the best of my ability. This is not a job for me. Guys, this isn't. This is a calling. This is something that, from being such an angry human being, to bringing me to the state where I will go and pull you out of a drug house, even if I don't know you. It's only God that could do that. I couldn't do that for myself. I was selfish, self-centered. And now, you put an addict in front of me, and I will do anything in my power to give them the message that I got. That's my job. That's my calling, is to carry the message and to tell people that drug addiction doesn't have to be your legacy, because it definitely is not mine. And there's no difference between me and you, the Nyaupe addict. If you can just have a taste of what I'm talking about, you will put drugs down and you will find a new way to live. That's the reason why I'm on this planet. I'm not on this planet for any other reason. I love my children, I love my grandchildren, but I do not love them more than I love the program that set me free. And I would be selfish if I kept this program to myself. Thanks, me.
Do you not think that as much as you went through drugs and you speaking from experience,
Yes.
do you feel that as much as it shouldn't have happened, it had to happen?
I'm so glad that it did, because I wouldn't be sitting here. I would still be that selfish, self-centered human being that thought that if I have a Dior bag, then I've made it. I don't care what bag I carry. I only am interested in what message I carry. If I can reach one addict, just one, and help them to let go of the grip of addiction. You can keep the bags, you can keep the Porsches, I don't care. I gave one person a chance to find a new way to live. And let me tell you what happens when one addict gets clean. They directly affect 16 people in their family, and that 16 affect another 16. So by one addict getting clean, you can affect an entire community. That's what this is about. And we look at our children and we call them drug addicts. I'm asking community workers, can we look for the underlying issue why this child wants to put a poisonous substance in its body? This child is in pain. The drug is what medicates the pain for that hour. If we can heal the pain, we wouldn't have a drug problem. We're looking at the drug problem, we're not looking at the cause. We need to go back and find out what is the cause. What is the cause? When I come across men today, this is a passion of mine, and they sit there and they tell me, I have been raped. Who can they talk to, guys? Who? Where's the platform for a man to sit and say, my grandfather abused? There's no platform. And then we wonder why at 13 he's using drink and drug. And we call him a problem. He's not a problem. We created the problem because we never gave him a platform. He couldn't come home and say, Bang rape. He can't. He must learn how to process this on his own. And then we wonder why he's an abuser. Because he's been abused. Can we open the channels and tell South African men, we hear you. We hear you. It's not only about us. And watch what happens. Watch how homes heal. Because South African men are told, tigers don't cry. What? Crying is a natural, God-given emotion. It's how we found out that we are alive. When they hit our bums when we are born, we cry. That's the first emotion we emit. And then we tell our young boys they mustn't cry. And then we wonder why. They go and find a drug or a drink that gives them relief from what society has told them they're supposed to be. No, guys. We have to start having new conversations, man, if we want to get ahead of this problem. We have to. The old conversations are not working. The old solutions are not working. We need to go back into childhood and see what traumatized this child that makes it want to put poison in its body that's been cooked in a kitchen in Florida. Because they trust the dealer. They buy a bag. They don't know what's in there. Can you imagine how sick you are? To take something that's been in a drug dealer's stomach, because that's where he must keep it. You go buy it. You open it with your mouth and you put it in your... Do you know how sick you are? So we need to debunk this and see how sick this person is. And what made them so sick? They didn't become sick just for no reason. There's trauma in that child's life. And if we can go heal the trauma, the drug addiction will take care of itself.
Authentic African radio swag. Fresh out the box. Homegrown radio. Ekaya. My home.
Have you liked our social media pages? On Facebook at Homegrown Radio, Instagram homegrown.radio, Twitter at radio_homegrown.
Ekaya, my home.